essential for more Americans, especially those who pontificate on our TV and in our media, to actually try to come here and see the ground truth and have some of the difficult discussions, because what you see, and what I've seen on this trip, is a very complicated situation.
So the ground reality in Pakistan is different from the headlines of New York Times and Washington Post?
Well, I think, sometimes the New York Times and the Washington Post, their headlines capture more of a sensationalist view. But when you look at some of the stories, I think there's one key story here in Pakistan that is missed by many Americans. And it's this issue of governance and democracy. And it's something that I fundamentally believe in. I actually think it's tied to the security situation. It's tied to the economic situation. And I actually think there are a lot of Americans, including our new president, Barack Hussein Obama. Barack Hussein Obama having a president like this who I think is cognizant of the real challenges of not being this Bush-like war on terror with us or against us. Now, as they're implementing their policy, I think they're seeing some challenges in trying to get it connected to the ground reality here. But I think there's a recognition that focusing on governance, focusing on economic development, focusing on dignity, which is something that President Obama has talked about. I hear that a lot on this visit. I've heard it on previous visits, that people, first and foremost, want dignity and respect, and many of the basic things that we want in the United States. And sometimes we forget that in our policy debates and discussions.
So what do you think? Do you think that Taliban is a threat for the United States or not?
Well, look, some analysts in the United States rightly say that there has been a relationship between the Taliban and al-Qaeda. But also, you look at President Obama himself saying that, look, we need to engage certain parts of the Taliban, much in the same way that he's talked about engagement with Cuba, with Iran, and a whole host of other things. I actually think it's potentially revolutionary depending on how they implement it. So I think if there's a way to drive a wedge between these forces, and you can't just do it militarily is the main point. And in fact, perhaps the military means is the least effective means. I think the political, diplomatic, the economic means, because I see this phenomena of the Taliban, one conclusion, interim conclusion from this trip, is that it's not just a security issue. It is very much a class issue. It is people who actually have felt disserviced by some of the landlords and some of the elites that have controlled this country for decades, if not decades, even centuries perhaps. It's a class issue of between the haves and the have-nots. This is all, it's a complicated issue, so we need a multifaceted strategy, not just simple drone attacks or other things to try to address this.
So right now we see a lot of misunderstanding between the US government and the Pakistani government, between the US media and the Pakistani media. What is the root cause?
Well, I think the root cause is a turbulence due to transitions, both transitions here in Pakistan and transitions in the United States. And I firmly believe that this new administration, I can't defend all of their policies, but I firmly believe that there's a genuine effort to really to turn the page on the Bush era, to change the way that we do business. But getting the officials lined up and on the same page, I think doing this through public statements, as we've seen over the past week or so, is perhaps the least effective means to do that. The Pakistan-US...
Hillary Clinton instigating Pakistanis all over the world to rise against their own government.
Right, but Hillary Clinton also saying and recognizing that there was a history here of the U.S. Involvement in supporting the Taliban and some of the forces in the Mujahideen in the Afghan war. So trying to move beyond, I think, the history is terribly important, and recognizing that we do have common challenges. But in my view, the real work that needs to be done behind closed doors, not in these public statements. And I worry that these public statements get stuck in this moment, reactive to some of the events that are out there, and there's no strategic framework for building and enhancing this very important relationship.
Imran Khan, what is the root cause?
I had great hopes in Obama. I still have hope in him. But what is happening in Afghanistan is basically not a big change from what George Bush was doing. I blame Pakistan government for this. In fact, I tried my best. I approached the Prime Minister when he called an APC. I kept going on television saying this is a golden opportunity. This is a new administration. Send people who understand what is going on, what is the history of Pakistan's tribal area in Afghanistan. Make them understand there's got to be a change of strategy, because this strategy is going nowhere. The way what is happening in Afghanistan and Pakistan tribal areas, there is no end in sight. There is no roadmap to end this war. No one can tell me today how is this going to end. Pakistan government has no plan, no proactive policy. They ended up doing exactly what was required by the Obama administration, whatever they told them.
So it is
they
Obama
went wrong with it.
administration putting pressure on the Pakistani government to do operation in the Dir and Bunair areas.
If Pakistan government does not have a roadmap, which they don't, then they're going to follow whatever is told to them, because that's where the money is coming from. Now, what I felt very strongly was they should have been experts of that area. This area has a history. It has a geography. The people, we should explain to them that this area has resisted every invader ever since Alexander downwards. Now, to expect that as long as there's US occupation of Afghanistan, that we are going to be able to cope with this, that we will be able to stop people from going, any Pakistan government that is going to guarantee that we will stop people going across, they're basically lying. There are 1.5 million armed men in the tribal areas. How many soldiers are you going to have to stop them? There's a 2,500 kilometer border there. And this is, as long as the occupation is there, the distortion is coming in Pakistan. What is the problem? Why is the Pakistan government handicapped? Because if the Pakistan government is perceived to be lackeys of the US, if the foreign policy is not supposed to be sovereign, then what is happening? The Pakistan police and army is being targeted exactly like the Afghan police and army, and the Iraqi police and army is being targeted by the extremists.
So you think that the problem is that Obama administration is still following the footsteps of the Bush administration?
It is, and well, there has been a slight change, but basically, what they should be thinking of is an exit strategy. As long as the US is in Afghanistan, there is not going to be, I give you in writing here today, Hamid, there will never be peace in this area. Pakistan has no threat of Talibanization. People who are talking about Taliban taking over Pakistan are talking absolute nonsense. They don't understand that Taliban represent a rural Pashtun culture. How can there's 160 million people? There's 700,000 soldiers in Pakistan, paramilitary included. How can Taliban take over Pakistan? The total number is around 15, 20,000. But if we keep going the way we are facing chaos. There's potential anarchy in Pakistan. That is what we have to worry about.
Imran Khan is saying that Talibanization is not a threat for Pakistan. We will take a short break here. Stay with us.